as far as politics go, I mean, the far right. I was when I was younger. I remember seeing a documentary about the British National Party, and just when they were sort of like, this was when they were still bordering on irrelevance. But what was fascinating to me, the point where it all became really fascinating, was in 2004, when the British National Party, who went from being a political party of complete irrelevance, with like barely, getting 1,000 votes in the last election, to suddenly getting 2.5 million votes and getting a seat in the European Parliament. And the way they did this was purely genius. And I've described this as, in my opinion, this sums up how easily susceptible and weak human beings' minds are. And what they did was, the British National Party, whose manifesto has not changed since its inception. It's the same. It's black people, immigrants, Jews, all this other stuff. All they did in 2004, they brought out the same manifesto, identical advancement. They just took out the word immigration and they changed it to Islamification. Right. And they took out all the references to black people. They didn't mention race once. They didn't talk about Pakistanis or Indians. They just said Muslims. Right. And they didn't talk about race. They talked about Islam. That was the only single difference that you saw. And they went from being this party of just Holocaust denying Nazis who were a joke to being this, suddenly they're this political force. And then
no, sorry, finish your thought. Then I had a question.
No, I mean, that sort of led to the rise of parties like UKIP, and then and in fact, the most interesting thing, and I've mentioned this recently, is if you look at their 2004-2005 manifesto, it is almost identical to the UKIP 2010 manifesto. And the interesting thing about that is
United UK Independence
yes.
Party. Right.
Yes, the Nigel Farage's party. Well, it was Nigel Farage's party. But what's interesting is that the 2010 UKIP manifesto is almost identical to the Tory party's 2015 manifesto. So if you want a sort of really simple way to show the trajectory of how far to the right politics has gone, it's right there. It's there in these three simple steps of going BNP, UKIP to Conservative in 10 years.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. That's like a perfect blueprint right there. Did you find it interesting? Because I notice all the time, like with the religion thing. So for me, like, and this is just a genuine viewpoint, and I guess my sort of genuine bottom line with religion is I truly don't care, and I think I would care more if. Look, I get if people have grown up in an environment where they were abused because of their religious upbringing, and whether that be Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, that is a very serious thing. I don't in any way minimize that. I completely understand and know people whose liberating themselves from an abusive religious background was a major part of their lives. So I just kind of want to table that and put that in its own lane. But besides that, I mean, I've always been agnostic essentially in my beliefs. I do have a form of a spiritual life, and I totally think that religion is a completely malleable, hackable thing. And, any one thing that is represented by Senegalese Sufis and, Salafist terrorists, I mean, sure, it's connected, but these are radically different phenomenon, just as like Desmond Tutu is one of my heroes and Pat Robertson's a great villain. On top of that, it's much more valuable to figure out everything, in my view, from a material perspective that just is going to get you to a more sophisticated understanding of how everything works. But was it weird? Like, I just noticed the conflation when I started talking about this stuff. Like, you would say, like, hey, or I would say, I think categorical bigoted statements about Muslims is both sort of factually wrong and it's kind of stupid, and it is in fact bigoted, even if we're playing games about it's not a race, it's a religion, blah blah blah. And then on top of it, and then certain foreign policy things are wrong, and so on. And then that would become this like, oh well, you're a Muslim apologist, and you just want the Muslims to move here and build a mosque and build a minaret outside your window, and all of this kind of like hysterical nonsense from otherwise people who would totally identify as liberal and not like Roy Moore types. I mean, and of course you were like, I never for a second. I mean, my views on religion in public life are really obvious, which is that I don't want religion to set policy, right? So, but did you find it bizarre how religion started to get conflated with, like people just have an inability to talk and have any type of actual understanding of anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, Islamophile was one that I occasionally get called, which I always think is funny. I have been accused multiple times of being a secret Muslim.
Oh, me too.
Allahu Akbar. Well, yeah, I've actually got the trifecta. There's three that they call this. I'm a secret Muslim, closet Christian, or crypto Jew is my favorite one. And for some bizarre reason, it's always those three. It's always secret. It's never secret Jew. It's crypto Jew. It's a condition. I don't know whether there's a pill for it or whatever.
You're not a crypto Jew?
No, no, unfortunately not. No. Well, I mean,
get off the show, Matt. Can we cut his feed?
Oh, typical East Coast liberals. But the thing is that the interesting thing was when I learned about, I've done a lot of videos, obviously about Nazis and talking about. I've done lots of videos about the Holocaust and Holocaust denial and such. And I always tell people that if you want to understand what's happening in the world in regards to what you said with conflating certain things to a point where you can't get to a conversation, like the conflation of Islam with race and stuff, is exactly what's always been the case. I mean, I've got newspaper cuttings and stuff from the 1930s where you'll literally see Nazis making the same. Oh, look, Jews aren't a race. This isn't a racial issue. They're Jews of a religious group, and there's the Daily Mail. A newspaper headline I've got, which is talking about the hordes of Jewish immigrants coming over from, and if you read it, it's like this is an article from the Daily Mail. It's not a racial.
We're talking about culture. Why can't we have a free exchange of ideas?
I genuinely think it wouldn't be difficult for them to create like an algorithm program where you just type in minority or oppressed group, the name for that bigotry, and then it would create these articles for it.
Well, I think what you're doing there though is you're showing a historical awareness which none of these people possess. But we have like a minute or so left, and I want to just talk to, because this is a lead up, and we'll have you on again. Obviously, we'll do more on both platforms, but. Dave Rubin is sort of like who I'm sure has blocked you on Twitter.
Definitely blocked me. Yes, he blocked me after the Slate article called him right wing, and he suddenly
Mother Jones called him right wing, and he threatened to sue them. Because he's one of those people who likes to conveniently bring up that he's gay and Jewish when it's convenient to him, and he's like I've had family members who have fought against literal Nazis, and my reply to him was, well, don't let your mother into your comment section on YouTube, and then that's when he blocked me. Yeah, exactly. And also, and he takes, there's connections to the Koch brothers. I mean, this guy, I think the reason he sticks with me is I have never seen anybody, like I see in media, you see craven people all the time. You see a fair amount of stupid people. I have never seen anybody at the perfect platonic convergence of both genuinely craven and genuinely stupid as Dave Rubin. Like, it blows my mind. I mean, he's genuinely not a bright person, which I'm going to need to set aside how not bright he is, because we're going to need to more thoroughly debunk him before he comes out and does whatever Tory does with this.
Well, I mean, he's going to bring up the fact that it's Hanukkah, and we're doing a video about him now. He's going to bring something up about the pyramids and the fact that the Jews were persecuted in Egypt, and he'll tie that to this somehow. That will be the way.
Or he'll be like, oh, they're doing pyramid. Isn't that cultural appropriation? Yeah.
Exactly.
He is like sort of like. Somebody, I mean, and also, by the way, if you ever want to feel a sense of humanity or empathy with Dave Rubin, attempt to watch him do stand-up. It's one of then you'll forgive everything that he's done in his career.
He does. He can stand up. The standing up is great. I've never seen a man stand up easier in my life. It's the comedy part that he struggled with.
Yeah, the comedy.
It's the comedian part.
And there's this whole clip. It's actually funny. The only clip I've ever seen of him is literally him standing in front of a sort of like morose crowd being like, any gay people out tonight? And I'm sitting there like, why are you playing identity politics? The hell is your problem? So, but dude, so, okay. And he sits there and he has like, I mean, he's sort of, I guess it's like the Larry King approach to interviewing the worst people on the planet.
Yeah.
Sort of like, oh, so you think that IQ means that black people are prone to incest? Why do you think liberals are so upset about what you're saying? Oh, you think that Muslims are all like inbred people from Arabia and we need to ban them from the country? And I guess college students can't take a joke. I'll take more Patreon money,
his defense
please.
is to straw man his own position, and
Right.
then to sort of like, and then to it's a bizarre sort of way of doing it. But I mean, it works for him. I mean, he has saying it. Sam Harris, who he had on the show. I mean, Sam Harris is the original kind of fake classical liberal. I remember reading articles about Sam Harris in 2006 to things like my fellow liberals friends, and it's obviously about Islam or something like
Right.
that. And he, but I mean, Sam Harris is a lot smarter than Dave Rubin, so he'd been able to get away with it.
This is
a lot
true.
more.
If ever there was a true statement, that was it. So look, we're gonna.
Hi, folks. Sam Seder here. We still need your help on our Patreon page. YouTube ads have come back, but not nearly as much as we had before. So if you can help us out, any little bit helps. Head over to our Patreon page right at this URL, and you'll help us keep helping you by making videos